Hey guys, welcome to another episode of International Insiders. Today we are on the Pacific coast of Costa Rica. This is one of my favorite countries. I've been doing business here for quite a while. It's a great country to live in. And here I have Ms. Pamela Cordero. She is an attorney specializing in residence and real estate and other matters. And today we're going to talk about the process of moving to Costa Rica. We're going to try and cover everything related to how do you get residence, if you want to buy a place, the legalities of living here and what's involved. So Pamela, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
So let's begin. Let's say that someone's watching this, they've been to Costa Rica before, they had a holiday here, they love the beach, they love the whole place, and they decide, you know what, I want to move to Costa Rica. So I want to start off by talking about how do you get residence, and before we even go into that, does someone really need to get residence? In other words, could they come here on a tourist visa, find a place to live? If, let's say, they're financially stable, they don't need to get a job, could they just come and live here on a tourist visa and do border runs every 6 months or not? Like, what are the benefits really of getting residence?
Actually, that is a very good question. My clients ask that question to me all the time. Let's see. There is something important about migration nowadays because the visa now it's approved for 180 days.
So when someone comes in at the airport, they get stamped for 6 months, right? They can
Exactly.
stay here 6 months.
That's the maximum for the visa.
Okay.
So they can stay during 6 months in the country without having the need to leave the country. Why they may ask for a residency? Well, it depends on the needs of the clients, but basically if they are looking forward to stay in the country for more than 1 year, or they actually want to live here, so it's a good option to apply for the residency. I believe one of the benefits are the Social Security. Costa Rica has a strong medical care, and in case of any accident, in case of any illness, they can apply, they can go to the hospital and they can have that medical service. So that's one of the benefits.
So if you're not a resident, you can't get the caja, I think it's called, right? The caja, the Social Security. You can't get that unless you're actually a resident.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And it's not only an option, but it's a requirement by law.
All residents must be in the Social Security.
Exactly. Otherwise, their migration status can be canceled.
Got it. Yeah, that is a big benefit. I guess if, let's say, someone was coming down here to retire and they want to have that peace of mind that, you know, if they get in trouble, they get sick, they can go to the hospital, they are going to need residence for that.
Exactly.
Are there any other benefits to getting residence, do you think?
Yes, the facilities to open a bank account. Bank accounts in private banks request to have a residency card.
Yep. Now,
even if they don't have a resident, they can apply for a bank account, but in a governmental bank, and we can assist them with that process.
So even if they don't have residence, you can still get a personal bank account?
Yes, they can. If they have, if they represent a corporation in Costa Rica, or if they have a property in Costa Rica, because what the bank is looking for is an attachment to the country.
Got it.
So if you are a manager or president in a corporation, or if you have a house or property in the country, you may request a bank account.
That's very interesting, because I had understood, and incorrectly, that you needed to be a resident to get a bank account, but you're saying that there are ways you can do it. Let's say if you want to buy a property, if you have that attachment to the country, now you could open a bank account.
Yes. Well, you open the bank account once you purchase the property, because remember that you need the attachment. So it's not going to work with a purchase agreement. It's going to work when you have the property under your name or under a corporation name.
What banks specifically could you do that with, do you know?
With Banco de Costa Rica.
BCI, you can do that.
Exactly.
That's
yes,
very
and
interesting.
we assist the clients during the process. We provide them the certifications that they need, the assistance. If the client needs us to go with them to the bank, we can assist them. Yes, until they have, up to when they receive the card, the debit card. Yes.
Okay, so before we get into the specific types of residence, let's come back to that tourist visa. So you got 6 months. So let's say that someone has a highly mobile kind of life where they're traveling, they want to go back to the States every few months and see family, for example. So could they come here and find a place to rent and just start living here and just leave the country at least once every 6 months and come back and forth and still be okay? Is that's all fine?
Yes, that's
Yeah.
fine. That's completely possible.
They come here, they decide, yes, I want to get residence. What are the different types of residence they can get?
Okay, first of all, it's very important to have an initial meeting with the client. We make an interview to the client to understand their needs and their profile. It's important because sometimes our clients request us assistance in a category of immigration that probably doesn't fit what they are looking for. So depending on the profile, that's how we are going to recommend which category.
Yeah.
There are main documents that are requested for the immigration service: the birth certificate and the criminal records.
Yeah.
Those documents are needed for any type of residency in
Now,
Costa Rica.
just on that, let's say that someone did have a criminal record. Can they still become a resident of Costa Rica?
Well, actually, they need a criminal record certification and the birth certificate. Both documents need to be apostille.
So if, let's say that they'd been in a car accident or drinking while driving or something like that, and that was on their record, would that be a problem to getting residence, or can those things be overcome?
I had clients that they had those types of problems before, and they have been approved.
Okay.
So migration study every case in particular. I cannot tell you if they're going to be approved or not, but the experience is that small problems like that ones, they still get approved.
Got it. So they just look at it case by case basis depending on the severity of what happened. Okay.
Exactly. Yes.
All right.
So when the client comes and they explain what they need, there is when we assist them and we advise them what type of residency they may apply.
Yep.
So for example, a client comes and they purchase a property in Costa Rica for $150,000.
Yep.
But they also have a retirement for life, pensional.
From back in the USA, for example.
Exactly. For example, from the States with the Social Security. So in that case, we'll recommend the client that even though they have an investment in Costa Rica, it's better to apply with the retirement because the process is smoother, it's faster. For example, for instance, a client has an investment in Costa Rica over $150,000, but he also has a life retirement, for example, in the States with the Social Security. In that case, we will recommend him to apply as a pensional. Why? Because even that he has an investment in the country, that kind of category makes the process smoother and faster.
So what I'm hearing is you're telling me we're talking about two different types. You said the pensionado, I think I'm mispronouncing that, but that's basically the retirement residency for people who are wanting to retire here.
Exactly.
That's one.
That's one.
And then you're saying there's the investment one.
Investment, when you have an investment in the country over $150,000.
Someone was to buy a home and spend over $150,000, that would be the investment residence.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. But you're saying that if it's an older person, they already have Social Security back in the USA and they're getting those monthly payments, it's probably going to be easier to get the retirement residence.
Exactly, because the system is different. Costa Rica right now has two kind of systems to apply for migration. One is digitally and the other one is physically in person.
Yep.
And the category for investment it must be done in person.
So you actually have to go there in person to do it.
Yes. And with the pensional category, we can apply digitally. Okay, so
do they need to meet you first, or could they be back in the US or Canada and call you and then you do this all virtually?
Okay, well, the first step is the interview with the client to see their needs and their profile. Once we have decided what kind of category they are going to apply for, we're going to request the documents. That's the first step, gathering information.
But you can do that, you have to do that in person, or you could do that on a phone call?
We can do it through a phone call, or remotely, they can send us the documents.
Yep.
Okay, and we also have to work gathering all this information and documents. Once we have the file complete, is when we need to apply. Okay.
Yep.
Now, this is important because the client must be in the country because we need to certify the stamp.
Okay,
So we excuse me. So
Yeah.
we excuse me.
Yeah.
So we ask for a copy of the passport and a copy of the stamp, and we certify that. That is part of the gathering information. So it's important that we apply during the visa, during those 180 days.
Got it. So they've sent you all the documents online, they email them to you, you've got everything you need, then you say, come on down to Costa Rica, they fly here, you do that certification where you can stamp the documents that you've said, okay, I met this person, they're real. And then what? Do they stay in the country or they can go back?
They can go and apply themselves, for example, but we always recommend to grant us a power of attorney, and we actually represent them during the process.
Okay.
That way, if they want to leave the country, we'll have the power of attorney and we will be able to represent them through the process.
Okay, so they give you power of attorney, then you will go and apply for everything.
Yes.
Got it. Okay, now I have heard that getting residence here, you can wait a very long time. What's your view on that? Is that true? And like how long on average are people going to wait?
It depends on the category.
Yeah.
Like, for example, someone that applies as a pensional with a retirement, it's a very fast process. Once we have all the documents ready and we have the file complete and we apply, the system is taking around 3 months or less, probably 2 months to have the approval.
You're telling me that within, say, 3 months of submitting those documents for the retirement residence, they can get approved and have their residence card?
Yes. No, the residency card is different.
Okay.
We receive the resolution in which they have been approved.
Uh-huh.
Actually, migration have 90 business days to provide the resolution, even approval or denied.
Yep.
But once we receive the resolution, then we have another step, that it's filing the client in the Social Security system of Costa Rica and interview at the Caja. And once we have the resolution from the Caja, we can ask for an appointment, and then the client will request the card. Once they request the card, Correo de Costa Rica is going to send the card, and it takes around 1 month probably for them to get or to receive the card.
Okay, so they've given you power of attorney, you go and submit all those documents. From that moment to getting the residence card, you're saying best case would be about 4 months?
Yes.
About 4 months?
Yes, but depends on the category, right?
Yes.
Because if the client is going to apply as an investor, it can take longer.
Yes, that's what I hear.
And the reason why is because we cannot submit the documents digitally or through the website
Yep.
that migration has for other categories. So we have to submit the documents in person, and they are taking around 1 year.
That's very interesting. Okay, now, as for that retirement residence, is there a certain age that applies to? For example, could I go and apply for the retirement residence, or is it a certain age that you've got to be above?
It depends on the country of origin. When they have given the client the retirement has to be for lifetime.
So the country of origin, the social security payments. Okay, so yeah, I wouldn't be able to qualify for that back in Australia. So
No, excuse me, yes, because the client needs to bring the certification that they actually enjoy for a lifetime pension, and it has to be duly apostilled.
Okay, what if they had some investment in their country of origin and they were getting a steady monthly check from it? Would that count, or does it need to be from the government in their country of origin, like a proper social security payment?
Well, that will be called rentista in Spanish. It's when the applicant has a fixed income of $2,500, $2,500 per month. It's a fixed income, and they will present documents stating that they are going to receive that amount for at least 2 years. And then having those documents, we can apply not as a pensional retirement, because actually it's not a retirement, but it's a fixed income that they get every month.
Okay, so the rentista in English, what does that mean?
Well, there's not a word in English,
Okay.
but it's someone that enjoys a fixed income
Yep.
of $2,500 per
Okay,
month.
so that's a new category of residence. It's different to the retirement one, is it?
It's not new.
Well, it's another one.
It's another one.
Right.
Yes, because, yes, so there are 3 categories. The rentista, this one that has a fixed income of $2,500 per month, and they need to prove that they are going to receive it for 2 years.
Yep.
The investment,
with
an investment over $150,000,
Okay.
and the pensional, yes, with a retirement of $1,000 at least per month.
Okay,
Yes.
now the pensionado, that's going to be the quickest one to get in your experience,
And rentista.
and rentista. So I could apply for the rentista, or anyone could, as long as $2,500 per month for 2 years. What would an example of that be? Like if you have a business overseas and you steadily collect more than $2,500 per month, would that be okay to show that, or what kind of investment would it need to be?
Okay, we need a certification.
Yep.
It can be from a bank stating that you're going to receive $2,500 per month. It can be through any other investment that is producing you a fixed income, but it needs to be certified.
From a bank?
It can be a bank, or it can be a company or a governmental institution.
Okay, got it. So you could find a private company to certify it, possibly, or no? More a bank or a government. Okay,
Yes.
got it. Okay, that's very interesting. Okay, so those are the different types of residences. That's very useful. So someone can contact you and you can help them through the whole process, and they only need to come here really once to certify those documents are real.
Yes, even though if the client is not able to bring their documents from the country of origin, like for example the birth certificate and the criminal records, we also have alliances with companies that provide those documents.
Got it.
So if the client, for example, they are very busy or they cannot fly to the state in which they need to get the birth certificate, we can assist them using the services of another companies another companies that we have alliances with, and we can provide those documents to the clients.
You've got temporal residence and permanent residence.
Yes.
Okay, so what's the difference?
The permanent residency you can apply when you have a family member that is Costa Rican citizen.
Could be a new wife, a new husband, a child.
Not a wife, because it's only a child.
Oh, okay.
A child or a mother, for example, or a father.
Okay.
Yes, if you have a wife from Costa Rica or a husband from Costa Rica, you can apply, but it's a temporal.
Yeah.
Okay, the permanent allows you to be in the country without having the need to present again the documents to renew that residency. You can get an approval for 1 year, and then you have to renew it. When you renew, you need to show to migration that you still have the same investment.
Oh, okay. Got it. So you can't flip it. You can't sell the house. You can keep it.
Exactly, you cannot sell the house. So once you have 3 years holding the temporal residency, you can apply for the permanent.
Got it. Okay. All right, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about real estate. Okay, so let's assume that someone's been here. Maybe they went to Jaco or some other beach town in Costa Rica, and they fell in love with the place, and they thought, okay, I want to live on the beach. I want to buy a property. What is involved in buying a property as a foreigner here? First of all, can you do it without having residence?
Okay, so the closing process in Costa Rica starts with an option to buy or with a purchase agreement once you find the property that you're looking for. I recommend for this to use a good realtor that can show you different properties, that can show you the conditions of the property as well. And once you have choose the property that you're looking for, then you will receive a purchase and sale agreement.
Okay.
My recommendation is that once you receive that agreement, to look for an attorney with an expertise in real estate. It's very important for us to review the purchase sale agreement because in there you'll find the conditions of the sale. And it's important as well because it gives a term for the due diligence period. Once we review the agreement and we carefully see that all the conditions makes your investment secure, we're going to continue with the due diligence period or the due diligence stage.
And what exactly are you doing in due diligence? What issues are you looking for?
When I start the due diligence, what I review is the title of the property. I review the boundaries of the property and the size. It's important to see that the size that is in the certification actually match the size in the survey. Also, we review that the title is clear from any lien, any incurrence, or any legal process that may affect the title or the possession of the property.
What are some examples of like a lawsuit against the property? Like
Example,
that
it
you
can
found.
have a mortgage.
Uh-huh.
It can have a legal process against in which the title of the property is responding as a guarantee. So what we actually review is that this title is going to be clear at the moment of the transfer of the title. Also, we review the seller, that the seller is up to date with all their obligations and their taxes. That's important.
Yep.
Because if the title belongs to a corporation, the corporation needs to be in compliance with the tax obligations in the country. Otherwise, National Registry may not register the property under the buyer's name.
Would you recommend, let's say that you want to buy a house on the beach and the current owner owns a company that owns the title of that house. Would you recommend buying the company, the shares in the company, or just saying, no, I just want to have direct title of the house, no company?
Well, that is a very important question because in my personal opinion and in my professional opinion, it's better to make a transfer of the title than acquiring the property through the corporation. Why? Because when we review the title of the property, we can guarantee the client that the title is clear and that they are not going to have any problem or any inconvenience in the future. As we review all the certifications, the history of the property, the owner, the boundaries, everything about the property, we can review it. But if the client decides to purchase the corporation, there are things about the corporation that we are not able to review. Like, for example, if the corporation have a debt or a loan, we cannot see that in National Register. We cannot guarantee the client that that the corporation doesn't have any liability. So if the client wants to purchase with the corporation, they can do it, but it's not the recommendation. My recommendation.
But let's say the seller says, no, I only want to sell you shares in my company that owns the house. Is that a negotiation? Can you as a buyer maybe go to you as the attorney and say, no, I want to have direct title. I don't want to buy the shares in the company. Is that negotiable usually?
Yes, usually we negotiate with the seller.
Yeah.
Sometimes the buyer still wants to acquire by the corporation, so we try to do our best to guarantee that the title is going to be clear. But we advise the client or warn the client that there are some issues that we cannot find.
So in some countries that I've been to, they have limits on like what's the minimum a foreigner needs to invest in real estate. In Costa Rica, do they have anything like that?
No, we don't.
Okay, so...
No, they can invest in a property with a value of $50,000 or in a vehicle or a condominium. There is no minimum for investment.
No minimum, no maximum, nothing like that?
No. Just if they are seeking to apply for the residency, the minimum will be $150,000.
Got it. We've got to spend at least 150 grand. And could that be just land, or does it need to be buildings, or either is fine?
Either is fine,
Yeah.
or including you can also buy a vehicle.
Uh-huh.
For example, if you purchase a property of $120,000 and you also buy a vehicle of $30,000, we present both certifications and it's completely
Wow.
valid.
That's interesting. So to buy a vehicle, you can just buy directly. You don't need a company, right? You can just
You can
buy it
buy
in your own name.
directly, but you need to write down an address in Costa Rica. Otherwise, the document won't be filed in National Registry. You need an address in Costa Rica.
I didn't know that, because that's interesting. Vehicles here in Costa Rica, from my experience, they're quite expensive.
Yes.
So if you want something decent, you could easily spend 40 or 50,000 US dollars.
Yes.
So if you found a cheap piece of land for under 100K, you could just get both, you're saying, and that would be fine.
Yes, that will be fine.
Okay, that's interesting. All right, now you hear all the time about foreigners who come to Costa Rica. They go out into the jungle, they find some paradise, this plot of land for sale. They see the for sale sign, they talk directly to the owner. They think, okay, I'm going to live here in the jungle and just build a new life and get off the grid. And then you hear about the problems with that, and that they're not able to get water permits and things like that, and even build. Can you talk about that? Like, what are some of the pitfalls of just buying land without checking whether you can get water, etc.?
When a client is interested in purchasing a lot, it's important that they look for legal advice and start a due diligence. We not only review the title of the lot, but we will request a letter to the Institution of Water in Costa Rica to guarantee that they will provide water in the lot.
Now, what I've heard in some cases is that sometimes it can take years and years, or never even happen, to get that letter from that water department you're talking about. Does that actually happen here?
Well, my experience has been different.
Okay.
Yes, it takes us around 3 months or 2 months to receive the letter. But even if the Institution of Water denies, the client can also look the option to make a well in the property.
Make their own well.
Yeah, an artisan well.
That's very interesting. So let's say they want to invest in some remote area out in the mountains, the jungle. You're saying in your experience, usually they can get that letter from the water department in most cases?
Yes, we had experiences with clients that they look for properties that were like in the mountain.
Yep.
And the Institution of Water couldn't provide water to that lot. So they made their own well, artisan well.
What exactly is that, an artisan well?
It's a well that you make in the property that will supply water. But depending on the size, it's called artisan because it's only for one dwelling house.
Oh, okay.
It's not for commercial purposes or for a hotel or condominiums. It's for the use of residential purposes, but only for a dwelling house. That's why it's called artisan.
Okay, and that would all depend on the land. So for example, if you're high up in the mountains, you might not be able to dig down and access the water in the water table. I guess it would just depend on where this piece of land is, if they can build a well or not.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, great. So they've got that letter to say that, yes, we can get water from the government. You said they go to the electrical government body. Is that ISI?
ISI, exactly.
Okay. So they've got those two things, and now what? If they want to build on this vacant plot of land up in the mountains, do they now need to go and get permits to build, or can they just start building?
Okay, it's important for our clients to know that once they have decided to make any construction, they need the permits of construction issued by the municipality.
That's the local government.
Exactly.
Yep.
It's important because the municipality is going to grant them the permits. So the first step will be request a use of soil. The use of soil is very important because it's a study that municipality does of the property, and it will establish what kind of construction you can do. Like for example, if the land is for commercial purposes or if it's for residential, if you can build one dwelling house, you can how many square meters you can use. So based on that study that the municipality provides with their engineers, it's when they start the process of getting the construction permits.
Yep.
So you have the use of soil, you go to an engineer.
So sorry, just on that use of soil. So someone's going to come and they drill down into the soil and check the composition and give a report on it?
Actually, it's something that the engineer department of the municipality
Uh-huh.
does. They don't do an inspection, but they have on a study on their system, and they can let us know what kind of the nature of the land and the purposes that the land has. So based on that, let's see, we also request it as a due diligence step, because it's important to let the client know how many square meters they are able to use for the construction. Because sometimes the land can be used for agriculture, for example. So there is a maximum that can be built.
I have it's kind of off topic, sort of, but let's say that someone buys some farmland here. It's zoned to farm, for farm use. And they want to do a real estate development. They wanted to build homes and sell plots of land. How hard is it to change the use of land, what it's zoned for, into another purpose at the local municipality? Is that an easy process?
It's not an easy process. Every property has their own characteristics, and the municipality is going to grant authorizations to build based on the nature of the land. So if, for example, if it says agriculture, the owner will be able to make constructions up to the percentage that has been authorized by the municipality. So we need to be very careful once the client is interested in a lot to review that nature of the land. Because sometimes they are looking to build, for example, pools with a ranch and a barbecue, but if it has an agriculture purposes, they are not able to.
Yeah.
So we need to advise the client or ask since the beginning what's the purpose of buying that land. And once we receive that study, it's when the client will know what kind of construction they are able to do.
Got it. Let's talk about costs. So let's say that someone wants to buy a piece of land with a house on it and it's $1 million US. What would be in percentages, like what are the typical costs to buy that land? I'm talking about lawyer fees, real estate agent fees. How much of that $1 million do I set aside for fees?
Okay. Regarding legal fees, it's around a 1 to 2% over the purchase price.
Okay.
As a notary public, we have a minimum by law.
Yep.
Because there are bylaws that tell us how much we need to charge or how much we must charge.
Yep.
So it's around a 1 to 2%. It's also a 1.5% for transfer tax over the purchase price. And that amount goes to the Ministry of Finance in Costa Rica. And 1% for stamps. And the stamps are divided to National Registry and different institutions in Costa Rica.
Okay.
So expenses will be 1.5% for the transfer tax, 1% for the stamps, and around 1% to 2% for notary fees.
That 1 to 2% for the notary office for the attorney. So you're saying that that is negotiable a little bit, but the minimum is 1%?
It's not negotiable.
Oh, it's not.
Excuse. We cannot negotiate the price because as notary public, we have a minimum by law that we need to respect.
Which is 1% or?
It depends on the value. So it can be, it's an average between 1% to a 2%. It depends on the value of the land.
Okay, but ballpark on $1 million, you're saying about, well, between 1 and 2%.
Exactly.
Okay, so I'm going to have to set aside $10,000 for lawyer fees. The transfer tax is 1.5.
Exactly. Yes.
There's another $15,000. That's on top of the $1 million.
Yes.
And then the what's the other one? The stamp duty.
1% for stamps.
Stamps. Okay, that's another 10,000. Okay.
Exactly.
And then the real estate agent commission, does that where does that get paid from?
So usually the realtor charges between 5 and 6% over the purchase price for commission. What we do for these transactions is that we make a statement a closing statement in which we will make a breakdown of the prices. So usually the payment of commission for the realtor is going to be paid by the seller.
Negotiable. So it all just depends on the deal, I guess.
Yes, exactly.
Yep. So the seller could actually pay all of it. So the buyer, they would just be looking at the 2% for the attorney, plus the other ones was maybe a maximum of 3-4%, somewhere around there.
Yes.
Okay. So about $40,000-$50,000 out of the $1 million in fees to get the deal done.
Yes.
And what's the timing on all of this? If I say I want a house and I'm ready to pay, how quickly can I have all the title in my name and be ready to move in?
The due diligence usually takes around 10 business days.
Yep.
And the term of 10 business days is because we request from municipality certifications, and that's the term that they provide.
Yep.
So we cannot get those certifications before. So it's important for us to have around 10 business days, 15 calendar days, or a month to review. But the quickest term will be 10 business days to make a good due diligence.
Yeah. So to actually move in, you're saying, well, 10 days to do the due diligence, but to get all the rest of the paperwork finished, how long do you think to get everything done so I can move in?
Around 1 week, 2 weeks.
Okay, that's pretty quick.
Yes. Also, we have to take in consideration that for certain transactions, we also use an escrow account.
Yep.
Yes, so it's important to take in consideration the term that it's going to take to provide all the documents to the escrow account, to the escrow company.
That's a good topic. I was going to ask that next. So when you're ready to pay, it's probably not a good idea to send all that money to the seller. You're going to recommend you need to have an escrow account. Now, is that escrow account the attorney's escrow account, or is that a separate company that specializes in escrow payments?
It's a separate company.
Yep.
It's a third party, completely impartial, and the escrow company must be filed at SUHEF. SUHEF is the institution that supervises the banks in Costa Rica.
SUHEF.
So the financial entities in Costa Rica. Once we have signed the purchase agreement, and the due diligence period starts is when we assist the client to look for the option of an escrow company.
Now, how much are they going to charge of that $1 million? What's the escrow company going to charge in their fee ballpark?
They usually charge us a flat fee that is around $1,000.
Oh, that's very good. So even on an amount that big, $1 million, they might only charge $1,000 US, or?
It depends on the escrow company.
Yep.
But usually it's around $1,000 to $2,000, for example.
Do they ever charge percentages, or that's rare? Normally it's just a fixed fee?
Yes, usually it's a
Fixed fee. Okay, that's good. Good to know. All right. So you've sent the money to the escrow company, and then once everything's good, they'll send it to the seller. You've got the title, I guess, in your name, and you're ready to move in.
Yes, I recommend to use an escrow account. For example, when the purchase agreement establishes an initial deposit payment, so it's important to have the escrow taking care of that initial deposit.
Yep.
Why? Because if the due diligence have been approved, the initial deposit gets firm. But during the due diligence period, if the purchaser or the buyer declines to continue with the process, the escrow account may disburse the funds back to him.
Yep.
So if a client decides that they want to transfer the initial deposit to the seller, I cannot guarantee that the seller is going to give back the initial deposit if the due diligence if the results of the due diligence are not good.
Got it. Do any attorneys here in Costa Rica have their own escrow account where they will accept the money?
Yes.
Would you recommend that, or would you always recommend no? Find an impartial, third-party escrow company that has no interest in the deal.
I completely recommend an escrow account, duly filed at SUHEF, authorized by SUHEF, and that it's a third-party impartial.
Got it.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay, that's interesting. Now, if you did buy a house, right, and that house was owned by a company, so you buy shares in the company, what are the annual costs to maintain that company corporate taxes, all of that, just roughly per year? What's someone looking at ongoing?
Okay. So it's important to define if the corporation is an active or not active corporation. What we mean with active corporation is a corporation that has a commercial activity and that it's filed in the Ministry of Finance. That receives an income and have profit. That is an active corporation. Not active corporation is a company that has been set up to hold an asset.
Yep.
So if the corporation is not active, it pays 69,000 colones. That it's around $120 per year.
You're saying that's it, that's total?
That's the corporate taxes. It's a flat fee, and it must be paid during the first month of the year. You have time until January 31st to pay the property taxes.
Okay.
It's important to pay on time because otherwise you are not able to pull a certification or to work with the corporation.
Now, what you just said about pulling a certification, so what's the name of that certification again?
Personeria.
Okay, now that's important because I know in my own experience here, sometimes when you go into the bank to get stuff done, they ask for that document, what you just said. I can't pronounce it in Spanish, but if you forget to pay those corporate taxes, you can't get it, right?
No.
So then you can't do anything, so yeah.
No, well, the Personeria is a certification of good standing in a corporation.
Yep.
If you review the document, it shows the name of the corporation, the ID, and who represents the corporation. So it's important also to remember that we cannot see National Registry who owns a corporation. That's completely confidential information.
Yep.
The only way that you can know who owns a corporation is having a certification from a public notary, certifying who owns the shares, or having the books of the corporation.
Now, if someone's listening to all this thinking, that sounds kind of hard to do all of this, can I just have my attorney do it? Can they just get you to do all that stuff?
Yes, we actually spoil very much the clients because at the beginning of the year, we send them a calendar with the tax compliance, obligations, and the dates.
Yep.
So we send to the clients and we take care of all the obligations for the corporation.
Yep. Okay.
And if they are not in the country, we can work it out through proxy letters or power of attorneys so they can be on time with their obligations.
Got it. Okay. All right. So someone's now got their house. They're now working with you to get their residence to legally, to stay here and get the Social Security. What about driving? What's involved in getting a car here? Well, first of all, can I, as a foreigner, just go and buy a car and start driving around with my international license? Is that legal?
It is legal. Actually, the transit law in Costa Rica grants authorization to a tourist to drive with their license for 3 months. Since the moment that they got the stamp in Costa Rica, they have 3 months to drive with their license.
Now, if they've got a 6-month tourist visa, so they're going to be here for 6 months, what happens in the 4th month? Can they still drive?
At the beginning of this year, the government authorized by decree or by laws the extension of the visas for foreigners. So instead of 90 days, they can receive 180 days.
Yep.
But the law of transportation wasn't modified. So the law still says that the license is good for 3 months. Even though if you have a visa for 180 days, you can only drive with your license during 3 months.
So in that 4th month, if you are driving technically not legally and you were caught, what would happen?
You can get a ticket.
A ticket?
Yes.
Would they take away your license plate or anything like that, or you just get a ticket?
You can get a ticket and you can get the plates removed.
Okay, they take away your license plates and then I guess you can't drive anymore.
Yes.
Okay, got it. Now, when it comes to actually buying a car in Costa Rica, so in my limited experience, cars are very expensive in Costa Rica. I think it's maybe the taxes to get them into the country. But if someone does want to buy a car, how does that work? They can own it directly in their name, of course, and like what are the costs to own a car here from, compulsory insurance and all of that stuff?
Okay, so once the client has found a vehicle that they are interested in purchasing, My recommendation is always to send us the plates number. With the plates number, we're able to search in National Registry if the title is clear.
Yep.
We also review if there are pending tickets to be paid. And of course, the owner, that they are up to date with their obligations. So once we have do the study and it has been approved, the client must, the client will appear before a notary public. We make the deed of transfer of the title, and we submit it to the National Registry.
Yep.
National Registry have 5 business days to study the document, and everything is fine, so they will file it under the buyer's name. So it's important that if they are looking forward to buy a vehicle, they need an address in Costa Rica. Otherwise, National Registry won't file it under their personal name, or they can have a corporation in Costa Rica for those purposes.
When you say they need an address, could that just be a rental? They're renting a place, short term, is that okay? Or
Yes.
that's sufficient?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And then what's this Marchamo that they talk about? What exactly is that, and what's that going to cost me?
Okay, the Marchamo, it's an insurance that you have to pay every year during December.
And everyone driving a car has to pay it?
The Marchamo is an insurance that you have to pay every year.
Yep.
And also, it's a right of circulation of the vehicle.
Yep.
It has to be paid during December.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
And what would I expect to pay? Let's say I've spent $40,000, which is easy to do here on a half-decent car. Like ballpark, what am I going to pay in that compulsory Marchamo insurance payment every year?
Okay. I cannot tell you the exact amount because the Ministry of Finance, they review the value of the vehicles every year.
Yep.
And based on that, they approve a percentage to be paid. So depending on the year, it may be less or it may be more.
But it's a percentage of the value of the car.
Exactly.
Yep.
But the value that the Ministry of Finance gives to the asset is not the market value.
Oh.
So we cannot provide a percentage or a number.
Yep. And now does that Marchamo insurance, if I'm driving around, I get in an accident and I break my leg, is that going to cover my hospital bills, or is it only for third party? It's for if I harm someone else in my car.
Exactly. It's only for third parties.
Okay.
Yes, so our recommendation is always to look for a good insurance, private insurance, to cover the driver and the passengers of the vehicle.
Can I get private insurance that's going to cover myself and the third party and forget about the Marchamo, or I have to have the Marchamo?
It's a must.
Okay.
You must have the Marchamo. Otherwise, you can get a ticket.
Yeah. So really, I should have 2 insurances. I should have the Marchamo, and I should have my own to cover myself and repairs to my car.
Exactly. It's our recommendation.
Yeah.
Yes.
Got it. Okay. Now, you've been doing this for a long time. You've seen foreigners come here and probably make a lot of mistakes. What would you say are like the most common mistakes foreigners make when they come and move here? For example, for real estate, what do they usually do wrong?
I would recommend tourists that comes to Costa Rica to seek good legal advice. Because even though if they know the country, there are certain aspects, legal aspects, that if they don't take in consideration since the beginning can cost them more money and time at the end. And my recommendation to the tourists that come to Costa Rica is to seek a good and professional legal advice. Sometimes they want to do it by themselves, but it's important that they get a good advice and legal recommendations. Most of the time, the mistakes occur when they execute contracts without a legal review.
Yep.
That may cost them money and time at the end.
So it could be any contractor, buy a car, buy a house. You're saying it's good to get an attorney's advice on that. Now, just driving around, for example, Harco, you see many attorneys. There are a lot of different law firms all over. How does someone find a good attorney? Like what should they look for? What kind of questions should they ask when they're deciding which attorney to hire?
So my recommendation will be to look for recommendations for the attorney and be sure that that's the expertise area of the attorney. as well.
Okay, so look for someone who specializes in that topic. So for example, if they want to buy real estate, look for a real estate attorney.
Exactly.
Is there anything else they can do just to check the background of that attorney, make sure they have all the certifications they should have, anything like that, or?
Sure, they can call to the bar.
Yep.
And with the name of the attorney, they can find out if they are going through a process, if if they are valid.
Yep.
And also, as notary publics, we need to have an insurance if the insurance is up to date as well.
Okay, so they can ask the bar for that. And then you're saying just ask other people, who do they recommend, who have they used?
Yes, I think that's the most important
Yeah,
recommendations.
And I agree, because usually, like for example, in the Facebook groups, there's a lot of these Facebook groups with expats in, and news gets around pretty quickly if someone has a good experience or not. But usually it's the same people kind of getting recommended. So ask people for recommendations.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Any other mistakes that foreigners make when they come here? For example, if they do overstay their tourist visa, like what would happen? Is it a big problem, or can they just leave the country usually no problem?
Well, that's a tricky question because ideally the tourists must respect the visa. But if something happens, first they can ask for an extension to migration, but also once they leave the country, they can get a penalty.
Okay.
Yes, but most of the time they won't have any problem.
Okay. Okay, got it. All right. Okay, so let's say that someone's been watching this and they think, okay, I can really see the value in having a good, knowledgeable attorney like yourself who knows all about residence and real estate. If they want to get in touch with you, how can our audience contact you?
Okay, they can reach us through our website.
Yep.
That is jpcabogados.com.
JPC Abogados, which is Spanish for attorney, is it?
Exactly, it's Spanish for attorneys.
Abogados, so that's ABOGADOS.com?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, all right. That's good. And can they reach you by email as well?
They can reach me through the email and they can reach me through WhatsApp.
Yep.
Yes,
What's your
we
email?
have a WhatsApp for clients' attention, and it's available from Monday to Friday from 8 to 5 p.m.
Okay, and the number for the WhatsApp?
506 60 57 8662.
Okay, got it. And your email address? What's your email?
P from Pamela,
Uh-huh.
Pamela, P Cordero at jpcabogados.com.
Got it. Okay, very good. So they can get in touch with you and you can help them with everything from real estate, residence, buying a vehicle, any other areas that you can help people in, just in case they're
Yes, labor law.
different topics. Labor law.
Yes.
Oh, so if they wanted to, say, start a business, a restaurant, start hiring people, you can assist in all of that.
Yes, if they're looking forward to start a business in Costa Rica, we can assist them registering their company or corporation in the social system of Costa Rica with the policies, as well as getting permits and assisting them with the contracts for their employees.
Okay. Okay, great. So you can do kind of a bit of everything. You can really help them in many areas. Okay, all right. So guys, get in touch with Pamela if you need any assistance legally with moving to Costa Rica. Thank you so much for the interview. I wish you all the best. And guys, we'll see you in the next episode.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.